Chicago, 1893. The world celebrates the future at the magnificent World's Fair. Millions of people arrive in the city, and for many, the perfect lodging is a new and imposing three-story hotel known locally as the Castle. The owner, a charming and successful young doctor, greets everyone with a smile. But what no guest knew was that this building was not designed for comfort. It was designed for death. Imagine a hotel where the walls have secret passages so you can be watched, where the rooms are, in fact, gas chambers, and where hidden trapdoors lead you directly to a basement with a private crematorium. Welcome to the Hotel of H.H. Holmes, the architectural masterpiece of America's first serial killer. In the next few minutes, we will explore the corridors of this nightmarish labyrinth, built by a man who was the true architect of hell. To understand the monster, we must first know the mask he wore. He was born Herman Webster Mudgett, but the world would know him by his more elegant pseudonym, Dr. Henry Howard Holmes. And he was the personification of the American dream. Born into a modest family, Holmes was exceptionally intelligent, handsome, and above all, charismatic. He could charm anyone, man or woman, with his penetrating gaze and smooth talk. He graduated with a medical degree, but his true genius was not in healing, but in manipulating. He was a master of fraud, bigamy, and deceit, long before he became a murderer. He was the kind of man who would sell you a miracle cure while stealing your wallet, and you'd still thank him for it in the end. Our second character is the city of Chicago itself. At the end of the 19th century, Chicago was the pulsating, chaotic heart of America. A noisy, dirty, dangerous metropolis teeming with opportunity. With the 1893 World's Fair, the White City, it became a magnet for the world. Millions of visitors, including thousands of single young women, arrived seeking employment and adventure, disappearing into the anonymous crowd. It was a city with no past, where anyone could reinvent themselves, and where the police were too overwhelmed to notice a few disappearances. It was the perfect place for a predator like Holmes. He was not just a man, he was a product of his time and his city, a place of dazzling progress and an equally deep darkness, the perfect hunting ground. Holmes's diabolical genius manifested in his greatest creation, the hotel that the press would later dub the Murder Castle. He bought a lot on the corner of Wallace and 63rd Street in Chicago and began a project that baffled everyone. During construction, he constantly hired and fired crews of workers. The reason was sinister: to ensure that only he knew the building's complete blueprint. The result was a 3-story labyrinth with over 100 rooms, designed for a single function: to kill with industrial efficiency and without a trace. The tension lies not in a single act, but in the very architecture of the place. Let's take a walk through this nightmare. The ground floor had legitimate shops, including Holmes's pharmacy, the perfect facade of normalcy. But the upper floors were his playground. There were windowless rooms, staircases that led to nowhere, doors that opened to brick walls. Many rooms were soundproofed and equipped with gas lines, which Holmes could control from a panel hidden in his office. He could lock a victim in their room and asphyxiate them with the simple turn of a valve. The hotel was his chessboard. Secret passages in the walls allowed him to move like a ghost, observing his guests through secret peepholes. And most chilling of all, several rooms had trapdoors hidden under the rugs, which opened to greased chutes that descended into darkness. Chutes that led the victims, dead or alive, directly to his sanctuary. And the basement. The basement was Holmes's workshop. It was a mix of a medical laboratory and a medieval torture chamber. There, he had dissection tables, a torture rack, furnaces, and a giant kiln, strong enough to incinerate a human body to ash. There were also vats of hydrochloric acid and pits of quicklime to dissolve the flesh from the bones. Holmes didn't just kill, he profited from death. He dissected the bodies of his victims, cleaned the skeletons, and sold them to medical schools. He also ran insurance scams, convincing his victims, mainly women to whom he promised marriage, to name him as the beneficiary of their policies before they disappeared. The tension was the cold, calculating, and businesslike routine of his evil. As brilliant as he was, Holmes's downfall came not from the countless crimes in the castle, but from a mistake driven by the oldest of weaknesses: greed. The climax of his story is the relentless hunt that led him to the gallows. It all began with his accomplice in insurance fraud, a carpenter named Benjamin Pitezel. The plan was simple. Pitezel would fake his own death, and his wife would receive $10,000 from the policy, which they would split with Holmes. But Holmes's mind knew no loyalty. Instead of using a random corpse for the sham, Holmes killed the real Pitezel, burning his face to make identification difficult, and pocketed all the insurance money. But the horror was just beginning. To maintain the charade, Holmes convinced Pitezel's widow that her husband was alive, hiding in London. He then, in an act of unimaginable cruelty, took custody of 3 of Pitezel's 5 children, the girls Alice and Nellie, and little Howard. What followed was a macabre journey across the United States and Canada. Holmes traveled with the children, while shamelessly lying to their mother, telling her they would soon reunite with their father. Meanwhile, a detective from the Pinkerton agency, Frank Gayer, was hired by the insurance company to investigate the fraud. Gayer's hunt was not for a serial killer, but for a con man and 3 missing children. The climax of the investigation is heartbreaking. Following Holmes's trail from city to city, Geyer made the discoveries that would shock the nation. In Indianapolis, he found the remains of little Howard Peitzel, dismembered and burned inside a stove. In Toronto, in the basement of a house rented by Holmes, he found the bodies of the two sisters, Alice and Nellie, naked, buried in a shallow grave, killed by gas asphyxiation inside a trunk. The nation, which once saw Holmes as a charming con man, now saw the demon he truly was. The hunt ended in Boston, where Holmes was finally arrested, not for the countless crimes in his castle, but for the murder of his partner's children. H. Holmes was a new kind of monster, perfectly suited for the new industrial and anonymous age. He didn't kill out of passion or anger. He killed with the coldness of a businessman and the precision of a surgeon. He is the connection between the Gothic horror of the past and the modern, terrifying figure of the serial killer, hiding in plain sight. After his arrest, he confessed to 27 murders, but investigations and his own contradictions suggest the real number could be over 200. We will never know. The murder castle was so complex and his methods of body disposal so efficient that an exact count is impossible. The fate of the castle is in itself a mystery. Shortly after Holmes's arrest, the building caught fire under mysterious circumstances, and much of it was destroyed, as if the evil that inhabited it had consumed it in flames, taking its darkest secrets with it. Holmes himself, until the end, was an enigma. In his final confession, he claimed, "I was born with the devil in me." His execution in 1896 came with a final bizarre request, that his coffin be filled with cement and buried in a 10-foot deep grave. Why? Was the great desecrator of bodies afraid that his own grave would be violated? The final connection is this. H. Holmes showed us that the worst monster is not the one who hides in the shadows, but the one who walks in broad daylight, with a smile on his face and a blueprint for hell in his mind. The story of H. Holmes is a dive into the mind of an evil genius. But what do you think truly motivated him? Was it pure greed, the pleasure of killing, or the thrill of building and controlling his own universe of death, outsmarting everyone around him? Leave your theory in the comments below. We want to know what you think. If you were fascinated by this dark journey through the history of crime, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next videos. Leave a like to help us unearth more stories like this. See you next time.